Hi guys, welcome to U-Wrench. Today we are changing the thermostat. This is for the Dodge Grand Caravan 5th generation. Also applies to the Town and Country, and this is for the 3.6 V6 engine. And this is the thermostat right here, so let's look at what's involved. So if we take a quick look at the thermostat here, you can see on top we've got this drain plug. And the only thing that holds these on is these two bolts. So you've got a bolt hole on either side. That's what we'll do is I'll show you where this is located in the engine, and then you know exactly where the bolts are located for removal. So if you have a look in the area where your airbox is, you've got this little gap just to the side of it, just down here. If you look down in that gap, you should just be able to see the very top of the drain plug. I'll just point that out to you right there. And that's the top of the thermostat there. So we already know that we've got two bolts. I'll show those to you in just a second on the mirror. And we've also got a cable clamp just there where the main radiator hose attaches on to the thermostat housing. Okay, and here with the mirror tool you can see the drain cap, and just above it you can just see in the mirror just there. These are the bolts that we're going to need to remove. So remember, there's two of these to get removed, so we'll do that now. Now obviously when we remove the thermostat we are going to get a leak of coolant that's going to come out of the thermostat housing and the pipe. So what we'll do is we'll put a drain pan underneath ready to catch the coolant. Now for releasing the hose clamp for the main radiator hose attached to the thermostat down there, if you want to do it in situ, this is the ideal tool to use. It allows you to put it down there and squeeze it remotely. However, we do appreciate that everyone watching this at home is going to have one of these as a little bit of a specialist tool. So what we're going to do is we're going to do it a slightly different way for you. We're going to remove the two bolts first, and then hopefully that should give us enough room to manipulate the hose and get it into this kind of position here, where it'll be much easier to disconnect the hose. So rather than do it down there, we're only going to disconnect the two bolts first, manipulate it, and that'll give you hopefully give us much better access. So grab yourself a fairly long size 10, and then we can attack these two bolts. As you can hear, as I'm slackening off the second bolt here, already we're getting the coolant draining down. Now, as you probably heard, we had a couple of bits that dropped out when we dismantled ours. You see ours is completely broken. The spring was all completely loose, and the top plate just literally fell out of the car as soon as we undid it. You see the two plastic arms are actually snapped off. If you compare that to what it should look like, that way around. You've got the two plastic arms, you've got this metal plate, and literally that whole thing was falling apart. So definitely long overdue a new thermostat, this car. So next, removing this, what we're going to do is get yourself a decent pair of pliers. Whatever you've kind of got hanging around will be perfect. Whoops. Move that to one side, just compress that, free it from the hose, there we go, and we'll slide it down so it's off the thermostat housing. I'll just release it there temporarily. Give it a bit of a twist and manipulation. We should get that off like so. So next we're going to put the thermostat housing back onto the main radiator hose. Note you've got this little bumper that marks kind of as far up as the pipe should go. And additionally, remember that your drain plug here should be facing up. So obviously we're kind of working slightly upside down, because when we put this back down, it's going to go back down in that way. So you don't want to be putting it on like this or like this. When this pipe goes back down, you want this facing up. So it's going to go on in this kind of direction. Now just compress your hose clip again, move it to where it was, back up to where it was originally, and try and match the marks that were on it originally as closely as you can. There. And release. Now before we refit this, we want to make sure that the rubber seal that's on this here is going to give us a good seal. So what we want to do is reach down and clean off the metal fascia where this is going to attach onto. So I'm going to do that with some blue cloth. So what I'm doing is just reaching down, kind of cleaning around the hole there, just to make sure there's no little bits of debris or grit or dirt or whatever might cause an issue, and get that as clean as we can. So using the mirrors, have a good look around the outside, make sure you're happy that you've cleaned it all properly, and once you've had a good look around and you're happy, we can look at refitting it. Another quick tip for you, before we seat this now, we're just going to make sure that the rubber gasket here is fitted in correctly. This one came in pre-fitted, hopefully yours will as well. What I'm going to do is I'm going to get some fresh coolant and just run my finger around there with fresh coolant, so it tends to make a much better seal. It's like when you're doing anything with antifreeze. It's a much better seal to have it wet than it is a dry seal. So just rub that round with a little bit of antifreeze just to ensure you get the best seal possible. So now just slide your thermostat housing into the hole there, and get it roughly lined up, ready for your bolt, and then grab your first bolt. Just do it so it just stops under finger tightness, and then stop there. A little tip for you: if you can't quite get the angle and it's kind of fighting you a little bit, you can wiggle the whole housing. If you wriggle it from the back of the hose, just down here by your oil filler, that helps you kind of gives you a lot more leverage than trying to do it up and lever it with just your hand on the other end. So give it a wiggle, get it so it's just about as far as it will go, finger tight. Then we'll look at doing the same with the second bolt. Okay, so I've got those about as tight as I can. Finger tightness. What I'm going to do now is grab the wrench, and just as when we do the wrench, we're going to ensure that we do them up evenly. So just ease them on, just swapping between the upper and the lower, just getting the tightness about even top and bottom as you go. Don't over tighten either. What we want to do is pull it into the body, pull the body into the engine, nice and evenly on both sides. So just keep doing that until you get to a point where you think that they're ready to actually be tightened. Okay, so I've drawn them in. They're kind of at the point where they both stop now, so I'm just going to tighten them up a little bit. If you want to be exact about it, you can do it via the workshop guide for these, and that is 12 Newton meters. But otherwise, just make sure they're nice and snug without over tightening them. Don't go crazy. Remember, the housing is only made of plastic. Now that we've refitted it, we know that everything below it, on the auxiliary dry part, etc., was exposed to the coolant. So just give that a bit of a wipe over as best as you can, just to get rid of any kind of obvious excess. Okay, so we've lost a lot of the antifreeze there during the changeover, so obviously that needs to be topped up. Now, if you're unsure what antifreeze it was in your car, if it wasn't you that put it in there, that may pose an issue, and you might have to do a full coolant drain down so that you can refill it and ensure that it's filled with entirely with the correct stuff. Alternatively, you can get coolants that are specifically made to be able to be mixed with any other type of coolant, so you might want to have a look at those when you come to buy your own coolant. In this particular instance, we did the coolant change on the car last, so we know exactly what coolant's in this car, so we're going to put exactly the same stuff in, so we do not need to do the full coolant drain down and refill, so we're just going to do a top up. But do bear that in mind. You're not meant to mix coolant types. Certain types don't react well, together. So you either want to buy a product that specifically says it can be mixed with any other type of coolant, or you want to make sure you put the same type in. Something to bear in mind before you do this. So what we'll be doing, we'll open up the radiator cap here, and this is where we'll be topping up the coolant. Before we do that, obviously where we've refitted the thermostat down in the engine bay there, that will have created an air pocket, because obviously we've just let a load of coolant out, so there'll be an air pocket in the system right there currently. And that's what that little drain plug is for, that little cross that's on the top of it. Hopefully you guys can see that just there. It's a little drain plug right in the top. So what we're going to do is we're going to make sure that we open the drain plug down there, and then when we refill from the radiator cap here, we'll refill this until we see the coolant come out of the drain plug. Then we'll know that the air's been released from the system. Then we can close the drain plug and continue topping it up till we get a level that we're happy with. So I'll just show you on the old one, so it's going to be easy for you guys to see. What we're going to do is put the screwdriver down in there and just slacken this off a few turns. We don't need to remove it. We've got to open it up so it reveals the thread. If you can see just on the top of the thread just there, it's actually kind of a groove built into these. Actually, I'll open it up a little bit more so you guys, this is further than you need to open it up. You see that little groove in there, that's what's going to be releasing the coolant. But we don't want to release it that much. We want to release it so we've just kind of created a gap somewhere around that kind of wide. So remember, on this first pour, what we're doing is we're going to fill it until we see the coolant escaping from the drain plug on the thermostat housing. There, so you can see the coolant now start to come through the drain plug on the right hand side just there. So that's perfect. So now we're going to shut that off. So the next stage is we're going to continue putting coolant in until we top off the radiator here. So we'll carry on doing that. Hopefully it won't take too much. It wasn't a ridiculous amount that came out. There we go. So next we're just going to turn the engine on, just to get the coolant circulating. This will probably draw a bit more coolant down, and so we'll have to top this up a little bit as well. You don't want to do this for a massive period, just like kind of 1 minute or so. You're not trying to warm the coolant up at this stage, you're just trying to get it circulating around the system. So we'll do that now, fire the engine up, and we'll just top this off as required. So next up, you have a look in the overflow tank here for your coolant. You can see we're a few inches above minimum at the moment. You've got quite a wide range between minimum and maximum. Might put a little bit more in there just to put it halfway between the two, which we're just under at the moment. And then once we do that, we'll ensure the coolant's fully run around the system and got up to temperature, and then we'll top it off as required. Okay, so we're now happy with the level that the coolant's topped off with. What we need to do now is ensure that we get the full system up to temperature, and to do that we also need to make sure that it circulates through into the heating element inside the cabin. So when we do an engine start and we leave this idling to get it up to temperature, you want to make sure you switch the heater on to full maximum heat inside the cabin, and that will allow the coolant to circulate back through inside the car to the heating element for the heating system inside the car, and that will ensure that the coolant's basically gone around the entire system. And all being well, we should see the thermostat opening, and we should see the temperature regulating itself. Okay, so we're going to start the car now and allow it to get up to full temperature. As I've just mentioned, we're going to turn all the heater controls up to maximum, and the fan up to maximum as well. The rear is not so essential, so I'll switch that off. But all the fronts here, all on maximum, because what we want to do is have that coolant actually circulate through into the cabin here, so we can ensure that the whole system is working as it should. If you want to speed the process up of waiting for the engine to reach its ideal temperature, you can always hold the accelerator pedal down lightly and increase the revs. Okay, so now I've got it up to temperature. If you want to see that the thermostat's appearing to open correctly, if you feel the temperature of your top hose here, it should be baking hot, which this one is. This was really hot. And we'll just double check the level in the overflow tank there. Yeah, we haven't dropped any. We're exactly halfway between minimum and maximum, so that's perfect. So the last thing you want to do before you sign this job off is just take your car for a quick spin around the block, at least 5 to 10 minutes. And then when you get back, double check your coolant expansion tank and refill if necessary. Obviously refill from here now, not from your radiator cap, because obviously your radiator cap's going to be red hot. So this is where you need to refill from if you do get a drop in the coolant level. So that's it. I hope you've enjoyed the video. Thank you very much for watching. I'd be very grateful if you could subscribe to us here on uWrench, and we'll hope to see you again in the future.